In their little house on the common, how beautifully the Claxtons lived, how spiritually.
What's this dreadful magazine, Sylvia?
It's a lovely magazine.
You mustn't snatch like that. Snatching's ugly.
I don't care.
Let me have a look at it, please.
No, I don't want you to.
Please?
Martha was certain of her superiority. That smile of hers, it was the hallmark of her spirituality. A more benevolent version of Mona Lisa's smile, it was the product of long years of willful self-denial, of conscious and determined love for humanity, including her enemies. She loved them because, really, she hated them. Herbert, under his wife's influence, had discovered unexpectedly that his talents were really artistic and was a writer with an established reputation for lifeless ineptitude.
Herbert is too inward, too spiritual for most people to understand.
We all have our little rucksack to bear. Herbert bore his not merely with resignation, but boldly, provocatively. A symbol of difference, of separation from ordinary, gross humanity. Eating was gross. High living was incompatible with high thinking. It was dreadful to think of the poor going hungry while you yourself were living in luxurious gluttony. Only when the original extravagance had been made up for several hundred times would Martha begin to relax her asceticism. Herbert never ventured to complain. In a mild and spiritual way, he was very fond of his food. So was Martha, darkly and violently fond of it. That was why she had become a vegetarian, why her economies were always at the expense of her stomach, precisely because she liked food so much. Sylvia lived in a state of unceasing rebellion and guerrilla warfare. Even the cat was a vegetarian, at any rate officially, even the cat.
Sylvia, you back?
Children must never be compelled. The art of education is persuading children to mold themselves into the most ideal forms, is showing them how to be the makers of their own higher selves, is firing them with enthusiasm, is self-sculpture. A strange child, she was thinking, a difficult child. In the girl, Martha saw something of her own stubbornness and passion and determination. If her will could be directed in a good way. But the trouble was that it was so often hostile, resistant, contrary.
Your daddy and I don't think it's right to make animals suffer when we can eat vegetables which don't suffer at all.
How do you know they don't?
We don't think it's right, dear. And I'm sure you wouldn't either, if you realized. Think about it. To make that ham, poor little pig had to be killed. To be killed, Sylvia. An innocent little pig that hadn't done anybody any harm.
But I hate pigs! I hate them! I hate them!
Oh, Herbert. a look. Quick. What do you see? What do you see? Let me see. Come on. Come on. Our friends are being prepared for confirmation, and Sylvia's got the infection.
It would have been a terrible flaw in her character if she didn't believe in some sort of rigmarole at this age. I want to tell you a story, Sylvia, about a little girl who had a daddy who loved her so much. And one day, this little girl spat in her daddy's face, which made her daddy very, very sad. And when one has done something wrong, one must be punished, mustn't one? Now, if you'd been that daddy, and the little girl that you love so much had spat in your face, what would you have done, Sylvia?
Spat back.
Patiently, Martha sets to work exploiting this religious influence on the child. The appeal to Sylvia's better feelings could now be made with the certainty of evoking a positive instead of a rebelliously negative response. Martha harped on the family's poverty.
Your daddy and I really don't mind doing without. On the contrary, it's really rather a blessing not to be rich. You remember what Jesus said about the rich.
On Sylvia's mind, these and similar discourses had a profound effect. With all the earnestness of puberty, she desired to be good and spiritual and detached. She longed to sacrifice herself. It hardly mattered to what, so long as the cause was noble. How fiercely she practiced her piano.
Patience and work. They're the two important things. Do you know how a great man once defined genius? Genius is an infinite capacity for taking pains.
For what could be more delightful, more profoundly soul-satisfying than to help your own children to grow up beautifully, to guide them, to mould their characters into ideal forms, to lead their thoughts and desires into the noblest channels. Not by any system of compulsion, of course. In their little house on the common, how beautifully the Claxtons lived, how spiritually.